morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone in person as well as online. So I believe this is week number 7, and today is on the 18th of November. And last week we already started to talk about meditation. So this week we will continue on with that topic. And so this will be for chapter 7, which is Meditation Explained, the practice of meditative concentration. So we're going more into the practical side. So the first question asked in this chapter is that, what is meditation? So a lot of people might think meditation is just about sitting meditation, but of course, as we have mentioned, meditation covers a lot of different aspects, from meditative concentration to mindfulness. So in the book, the Venerable Master said that one of the greatest advantage of sitting meditation is that you can take it with you wherever you go. So sitting meditation, you can sit anywhere, whenever it's comfortable. Jessica, I think you might need to mute your microphone because we can hear the wind. Sorry about that. Okay, so whether you are in a forest or deep in the mountains, along a stream, among grasses or reeds, you can develop meditative concentration just by sitting down and crossing your leg. And the same goes with the mindfulness of breath as well. When you're able to train your mind to be able to focus upon your breath, basically you can do it anywhere because you're constantly breathing. You're breathing when you're awake, you're breathing when you're asleep, you're breathing when you're doing work, you're breathing when you are anywhere. We're basically one of the biggest requirements for us to continue living. It's to be able to breathe. So definitely when you're able to breathe anywhere, wherever you are, then basically technically you could also practice wherever you are as well. But what is actually meditation? Does it just come from sitting, standing, or lying down? So we talk about Master Huineng, or the sixth patriarch of Chan Buddhism. He said that meditative concentration is not found in any of these positions. In fact, Huineng once told the Chan master Zhicheng that abiding with the mind contemplating stillness, abiding with stillness, using our mind to contemplate stillness is a sort of sickness. It's a kind of illness. We shouldn't call it Chan. We shouldn't call it mindfulness. So instead of focusing on this stillness and indulge in it, we should actually focus on all the things that are happening around us and be mindful of it. So how should we actually practice meditation? The great Chan master Zibo once said that without delving into the mind, sitting meditation is a pointless exercise for increasing suffering. So for example, if you are just sitting there cross-legged, trying to bear the pain, the numb, and all the unpleasant sensations that comes from sitting long periods of time, it's basically just giving you more suffering. If you don't take those opportunities to delve deeper into your mind, into the teaching of the Buddha, then there's no point in that exercise. It's just basically giving you more suffering. Okay, so meditation, basically, it's not just about sitting quietly with our eyes closed. This is just one of the methods for developing meditative concentration. What matters in meditation is being able to contemplate and focus the mind. So one of the Chan master Nan Yue Huairang once said that, consider an ox pulling a cart. If the cart does not move, the vehicle or the mechanism that's behind all the wheels doesn't move, do you hit the cart or do you hit the ox? So just by hitting the cart is useless. Just beating it, it doesn't move. It doesn't have a way to sense, doesn't have a way to think. So in the same way, how you concentrate the mind is far more important than what you do with your body. The body is a vehicle. The body is a medium. What's moving it or what is actually doing the work or the thinking is the mind. And the Chan master Rui Yan, who lived during the Tang Dynasty, would often say to himself, he would just ask when he's alone by himself, he would say this to himself, Master, are you there? So it's basically a monologue, and he'll answer, yes, yes, I am. So it's actually a really good way to stay in the present and also to be mindful, just checking in with yourself. Are you being mindful at the moment? Are you really there? So most people will think something like this would be crazy, but those who know about meditation can appreciate his profound words. So Chan Master Ruiyan was trying to awaken his intrinsic nature and thus never left the present moment, even for an instant. He's constantly checking in with himself, constantly reflecting. Don't know if there is a way to make this. Okay, never mind. So while it is true that meditative concentration is not about sitting, but sitting meditation is still a necessary practice for beginners. Sitting meditation is required to experience the joy of meditation and to begin to contemplate and to investigate one's intrinsic nature. And so to begin the practice of meditation, sitting meditation, it's important to have some basic knowledge on meditation, and it's also good to be familiar with the fundamentals. So a lot of the terminologies in this class will be focused on this basic knowledge, this terminologies that you might hear in the retreats in the meditation class. So meditation has been explained in many different ways in many different texts throughout history, throughout centuries, and while no explanation can give a complete picture of what meditation is, they all contain valuable teachings. It's all basic signposts that points towards the same direction. For example, the 6th century text, the condensed technique for stopping delusion and seeing truth, basically that is a Tian Tai school text in ancient China, describes the beginnings of sitting meditation as having the basics: balanced meals, balanced rest, balanced body, balanced breathing, and a balanced mind as well. Sorry. Just seeing if it's able to eliminate. Okay, here you go. Comes back again. Well, never mind. Okay, so the 6 sublime methods that are being presented in the book that was being mentioned, they were formulated by Master Zhi Yi, and he is the founder of Tian Tai School. And these 6 methods of meditation practice are paths that leads towards nirvana. So the 6 sublime methods, basically, if you are doing any sort of breathing mindfulness, you will definitely be instructed in 1 or 2 of these methods, but at least we will definitely start from counting the breath. So when we start to do the mindfulness of breath, we all start by counting it. So this first sublime method is to focus the mind by counting the breath from 1 to 10. Basically 1 to 10, and then 10, you come back to 1. It's the same method that's been used. It is an essential practice for developing meditative concentration. We start by counting it, by putting a number on top of this process that we call breathing. But when we advance further, we will go to the second phase, that is the second sublime method of following the breath. So by following the breath, it means that one follows the breath during the inhales and exhales without counting the breath. You just feel the breath and put your mind focus upon your breath. So if you are able to do the counting perfectly, basically from 1 to 10, coming back to 1 without losing track, without losing count, basically you can let go of the so-called the training wheels. Just like when we are trying to ride a bike, we put on training wheels. But when you are already used to it, when you're mindful enough, you can just let go of the counting part and just focus upon following the breath. Just observe the breath coming in and out. So this is an easy and natural way to develop meditative concentration. But of course, the preliminary training will be first using a number to count from 1 to 10 to be able to enable you to be able to focus enough to follow your own breath. And then after that, the counting of breath or following the breath is not just about the breath. There's definitely more towards that. The third step is to stop illusion. So the third sublime method of stopping illusion is to make the mind still and tranquil by putting an end to the mind's delusion and abiding in a state of non-thought. So by counting the breath and you are calm enough, you're able to see your mind, as in being able to really see there's a thought that comes into existence. You're thinking about this one thought, but it also goes and ceases to maintain, and then it goes off again. So a thought rises, it keeps on going for some time, and then it fades away. So if you're able to see the thoughts coming and going, it's just like the breath. If you're able to follow the breath, inhale and exhales, then you will be mindful enough to be able to observe your own thoughts as well. And when you're able to observe these thoughts, you might even be able to be mindful enough before any thoughts will arise. You will already know that, okay, a thought is arising. It might be a good thought. It might be a bad thought. But if it's a bad thought, maybe I don't want to have that thought. So you're basically able, like when you're counting the breath, you're distracted and you're bringing yourself back to counting the breath. This is the same process. You are starting to have a negative thought. You are mindful that this is coming up, but you don't want to focus on that. You can just bring it back to the meditation, to your mindfulness at your current moment. So once one is able, or one has put a stop to these delusions, the mind will naturally become concentrated and wisdom will naturally arise from it. So the third step is about stopping delusions. And by the way, this background that I'm using, it's basically from Mount Tiantai, which is the place where the Tiantai school is originated. So this is a temple in Mount Tiantai. And this one as well with a waterfall. So the fourth method, the fourth sublime method is seeing truth. As mentioned, we are training our mind to be mindful enough. So the next step is to really delve deeper into the teaching and also to examine the truths that have been taught to us. So it is often paired with the previous method that definitely you need to go through all these different methods. The fourth sublime method is to see deeply into all phenomena and to develop wisdom. So this is done by contemplating the five aggregates. I don't know if we have anyone here know about the five aggregates or had a class about five aggregates, but basically it's mentioned here. The five aggregates are the five different things that make up a living being, a person. So you need to have a physical form, that's basically the physicality of a being. And then you also have the four others are mental aspects that are feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So those four are the mental side. So like in the Heart Sutra, when we chant the Heart Sutra, when we say that no form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, basically it's talking about the five aggregates. And also in the beginning of the Heart Sutra, it's also said that Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when contemplating, practicing deeply in the five, in Prajnaparamita, he sees that the five aggregates are all empty. And so these are the five aggregates. Of course, we'll be going deeper. If you feel you need more explanation, I'll do it in the Q&A. So when practicing this method, each of the five aggregates are seen to be false or an illusion. The five aggregates, the form, the physical form, our feelings, and the thoughts that generate from it, the perception, how we perceive reality, and the mental formation. From perceiving it, we have positive, negative thoughts, and also positive and negative actions that coming from our deeds. And all of these will be stored in our consciousness as you do anything good, there'll be a good karma that's stored in our consciousness. You do anything that's bad, unwholesome, there will be something bad that's stored in your consciousness. So all these five, even though Buddhism talks about it, the Buddha also said this is an illusion, and we need to see through that illusion to be able to break out of its bonds. So in this way, you can break through the delusion and develop skillful and undefiled wisdom. So this is the fourth. And already this is really advanced in any sort of practice of meditation. You need to be able to be calm enough to go to the third stage of being able to see, to feel and observe your own thoughts, to be able to go into the fourth, which is considered quite advanced in the development of one's own practice. And the fifth is to have self-reflection. So when reflecting on the mind, one knows that the idea that the mind is the knower is untrue. So a lot of generally in general knowledge, like in all of the conventional wisdom, this self is the knower, this self is the doer, this self is the person that is telling you, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. But the Buddha also talks about non-self, which is there is no true being that is behind this self, and it's the knower, the doer, the whatever that controls. You think you have control, but it's actually made up of causes and conditions, and it is merely happening in that way, and it has a fruition out of that. And thus the attachment, if you're able to know that this knower is untrue, there's no such thing as this self or this knower, then the attachment to the self will disappear on its own. And if you're able to see this part of reality, if you're able to understand this, then you will be able to achieve towards great wisdom, great enlightenment. So then the skillful wisdom of without outflows will make all things clear. So when you're able to reach towards that point, then basically what the Buddha teaches will be immediately clear to you. And the sixth of the sublime method is purification. So when the mind is free of attachment, everything becomes clear and pure. One develops wisdom that is truly clear and without outflows. This naturally brings an end to confusion and allows one to realize the truth. So you can say that this number 6 is already the state of enlightenment. You're already an enlightened person. Your mind is free from attachment. You see everything clear. You're able to develop your wisdom in that way as well. So you can say that the fifth stage is enlightenment, and the sixth stage is like the practice that is happening after enlightenment. So a lot of people might think after enlightenment, you are already an enlightened person, a saint. You don't need to do anything, but there are still practices that will lead you towards the perfection of your practice. And therefore, we talk about the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections. And when you're able to perfect all these paramitas, then only you will arrive at Buddhahood as the fully enlightened one. And so these are the 6 process or the 6 sublime methods. Of course, we talk about the first, counting the breath. It's just a start. If you're able to advance, you'll be following the breath, and then you'll be going to be able to see your own thoughts, observe your own thoughts. Hence, you're able to stop the thoughts that are delusional. And after stopping the thoughts that are delusional, then you can start seeing what is true, the truth behind all the teachings. And from seeing truth, you'll also be able to self-reflect. Not only the phenomena that you see in this world are untrue or illusional, the self that knows, that are able to perceive the knower, is also untrue and illusional. So if you're able to self-reflect, then you will arrive at the state of purification, and you're able to work further and further into the state of Buddhahood. So these are the 6 sublime methods. It's definitely considered really advanced for anyone that is practicing meditation. And most of the time, these are taught in meditation hall, in retreats, instead of a class like this, because definitely a Chan instructor will take you one step at a time to be able to let you advance in that order. So basically, we're just giving everyone an overview about how you can actually achieve towards meditative concentration, or how you can arrive at the state where you can develop your own wisdom that is intrinsic within all of us. So it's this 6 methods, the 6 sublime methods, starting from counting the breath up until the purification of one's own mind. And so of all the 6 sublime methods, following the breath is definitely the most important, because after counting the breath, you're able to practice by following the breath. For one sees the breath move from activity to tranquility. And after contemplating the breath, one can also see the mind move from activity to tranquility. And so the breath moves in and out, just like the cycle of birth and death, or any process that we see in this impermanent world. The arising and ceasing of phenomena, and arising and ceasing of our thoughts as well. It is by seeing the breath, by observing the breath, that we can come to realize the Buddhist teaching that all things are impermanent, and it gives rise to suffering, and at its nature is also of emptiness. So once this is understood, then the attachment to the self is severed and the higher state of self-reflection and purification are possible. So as you can see, we are only when you're able to be calm enough with your breath and with your mind, then you can start to examine the teaching of impermanence, suffering, emptiness, as well as the state of non-self. So these are the 6 sublime methods. Of course, there's also the 5 contemplation, the different ways to contemplate the 6 sublime methods. It starts with the mindfulness of the breath, but there are other ways to approach this as well. So before we achieve meditative concentration, we can use the 5 contemplations to eliminate specific afflictions. For example, you might have a certain tendency to easily get angry, or you are constantly in a state of needing, coveting something more. So there are specific ways to counter those. So the first is the contemplation of impurity. To practice the contemplation of impurity, basically one will visualize a person, a body is filled with filth, muck, contained within this body, as well as the body of others. So it always tells us to contemplate, like basically you're doing an autopsy on yourself. So taking away the skin, taking away the muscles, you'll see the bones, the blood, all the gore, and visualize that in this way. So this contemplation is used to counteract with desire. If you are feeling a lot of desire, a lot of lust, this is one way to see that this body is just made out of flesh and blood. It's not something that is worthy of your desire. And so this is the first is the impurity, contemplation and purity. It is used to counteract desire. The second is the contemplation of compassion. So this contemplation is for people who are prone to anger and involves visualizing how true happiness can be obtained by removing suffering and offering happiness to yourself as well as others. So by visualizing in this way, practitioners are able to diffuse their anger and hatred, and it's basically it's called the metta karuna contemplation, and it's been talked in extensively in the Metta Sutta, especially in the Theravada tradition. So when you are doing the contemplation of compassion, you'll visualize starting by yourself to be truly happy and be able to remove your own suffering and be able to attain to happiness. Then you will go on to visualize your family, close relatives, your friends, to achieve true happiness and are removed or all suffering. And you move on to like strangers that you don't know. You might see them on the street. You will do this in the same way. And at the last part, you will arrive towards trying to visualize that your enemies, your foes, your rivals, the people that don't see things in the same way as you, the people that you hate in a way that you will use this same method, this same contemplation of compassion. You will wish true happiness to them, and you will hope to remove their suffering and to be able to offer them happiness. So this starts by focusing on yourself, the people that you love, that are close to you, and then people that are more neutral, your people on the street, a bystander, maybe someone in your office that you don't really know, and then you will start to visualize your enemies, the people that you hate. So it is trying to use this compassion to counteract or diffuse the tendency of anger and hatred that might exist within some of us. Well, actually, all of us. It's just some of us have more tendency or prone to anger than other people. And the third is the contemplation of causes and conditions. This has more to do with dependent origination. People who remain ignorant and develop attachments because they fail to realize that all phenomena in the world arise and cease because of causes and conditions. So by investigating and understanding causes and conditions, ignorance transforms into wisdom. So when contemplating causes and conditions, one will use or seize all the 12 links of dependent origination in their every thought and understand that each thought arises from previous thoughts in an endless series of preceding and succeeding thoughts. So as mentioned, if you're able to contemplate in this way, you will see that there is no knower or doer. There is no such thing as a self. It is mainly a chain of causes and conditions. Of course, this method, you definitely need to start off with the previous three of the sublime methods to be able to arrive on this contemplation. So if this is so, all things in life arises due to causes, and all things will produce effects as well. So by understanding this, one can see how each individual is connected to all of humanity and all of existence, and how any isolated event is connected to every other phenomenon. So nothing can exist independent of all the phenomenon in this world. Every reaction will have an equal and opposite reaction that comes from it. This is in physics, and this is also in the teaching of the Buddha of cause and conditions. So this is definitely a much more advanced way of contemplation, because first you need to be familiar, be clear about the 12 links of dependent origination, and then you will need to be focused enough, be calm enough to be able to see all these in every single thought that you have, and to be able to understand that all these are a process of arising and ceasing. And this is the 12 links of dependent origination. So I won't go too deep into this, because definitely this will even, if I want to talk about this, I can even take a whole class to just go into it. It starts with ignorance as like a cause of our birth and death, with mental formation, consciousness, name and form. When we are born, we will have 6 internal senses, and when we have this senses, we come into contact with the world. We will have feelings and sensations. Because of this feeling and sensations, we will crave certain things in this world, and the more we crave towards certain things, the more we will be clinging and be attached to certain aspects of this world. And when we're clinging towards certain aspects, we will be connected to those aspects, and thus we will be becoming those things. For example, when you cling towards the notion of anger or hatred, or maybe even vengeance, you will become vengeance. You will be stuck in that process. And because you are stuck in that process, you are unable to eliminate that process. There will be birth or rebirth. And because of the birthing of a physical body, there will definitely be aging. And from aging, they'll be definitely deaf. And once you're dead, you have passed. If you're not able to cut loose of your ignorance, this ignorance will bring you on to the same process again and again. So this is the 12 links of dependent origination. Of course, if you like to know more about any of these 12 links, I can talk about more in the Q&A. And yes, so within the 5 contemplation, the 4th contemplation of counting the breath, basically it's what we've mentioned. When the mind is rolling due to deluded thoughts, we can contemplate the breath as a way to focus the mind. Not only will this make our breath even, basically stable, but it frees the mind of distraction and allows us to attain a state of inner calm. So as mentioned, this method, this contemplation can be used as a foundation for you to practice any other contemplations as well. But counting the breath by itself, as mentioned in the 6 sublime methods, it can carry through into all of the practice, even up until Buddhahood. You can still use this contemplation to achieve towards the highest goals. And the 5th, the contemplation of the Buddha. Basically, it's the perfection of all contemplation. In this form of contemplation, we are mindful of the Buddha's radiant features and his accomplishments and his tranquility as a way to overcome our karmic obstacles. So the contemplation of the Buddha is to contemplate first an image of the Buddha, or you can use a statue, you can use a photo, just to really be clear or really be focused, observant on all of the details that is on this photo or on this statue, because the statues and the photos are all designed or being created in accordance to the 32 features of the Buddha, which is mentioned in the sutra. And from this 32 features, you will start to contemplate that this is a real Buddha instead of a statue. You will contemplate this Buddha as a real person, as if you are in the presence of the Buddha when he was alive. And at the final, more advanced stage of this type of contemplation, you're able to even feel that the Buddha is speaking to you or teaching the Dharma to you. So it's like seeing a real Buddha in front of you by the power of contemplation. So this Buddha has radiant features, and all his accomplishments and his tranquility. And so this is a way to overcome karmic obstacles, because there are people that may face more karmic obstacles, as in, like, even in a retreat, some people, it's hard for them to just sit still, or they might have a lot of thoughts that they couldn't overcome even with all the other methods. So if that is the case, an instructor might tell you to, of course, first to repent, to prostrate in front of the Buddha, and to repent of any past wrongdoings that you might know or might not know, because the wrongdoings might not be in this lifetime, but in the past lifetime, to purify your mind, and also to contemplate the Buddha of all his accomplishment, all his merits. And you are in hoping that you contemplate the Buddha himself, you're able to feel the compassion and the wisdom and also the merits of the Buddha, to be able to be rid of all your own karmic obstacles. So this contemplation is also closely related to the Pure Land Buddhist practice. Pure Land Buddhist practice, they chant the Buddha's name. Normally it's Amitabha Buddha. But of course, in our English chanting, we pay homage to Sakyamuni Buddha. By chanting his name, we are also trying to invoke all the radiant features, accomplishments, and tranquility of the Buddha himself, so that those features can reside in our mind as well. So this is the contemplation of the Buddha. So all these fives can be used as a way, first, to counter certain aspects of your some aspects of negativity in one's own mind. But of course, all these five are also ways that will lead you towards enlightenment. And just a really quick run through, because definitely in this chapter itself, it touches base on a lot of different concepts, but you can read this by your own. But basically, these are all very advanced terminologies or knowledge that basically a Chan instructor will pass it will be teaching to you only when you're at a certain stage. For example, the four bases of mindfulness, of being mindful of the body, the physical body, and being mindful of your feeling, as in there are pleasant sensations, unpleasant sensations. They're neither pleasant nor unpleasant. This is also being taught. This is basically what's being taught in the scripture. Being mindful of the mind, how the thoughts come and go, and being mindful of all the phenomenons in this world. So these are the four different kinds of basis of mindfulness. And especially in Theravada Buddhism, these four are seen as like a foundation for any of the practice. So I'm just going to touch on that. And the second is the 9 stages of mental focus. And this 9 stages is, I would say, would be even more advanced than the 6 sublime methods. So first of the 9 is internal focus. Then you have continuous focus, calm focus, close focus, compliance, quiescence, supreme quiescence, one-pointed focus, and finally you will arrive on equilibrium. So these are all terminologies that might appear, but again, I will urge you to look at the book itself, For All Living Beings, and to just look at all of those. It will be helpful for you when you go into retreats, but it's not required, because basically in a retreat, the instructor will just instruct you on your current state or your current development in your practice. And the third I would like to share is the 8 dhyana states. So dhyana states, it doesn't just exist in Buddhism, but it also exists in Hinduism and a lot of different schools and religions in India. So the first 4 are the first, second, third, and fourth dhyana. This has to do, in Buddhist cosmology, the human world exists in the desire realm because we reproduce through desire. You have desire and you reproduce with a mate. That is the case to all the beings that exist in the desire realm. And when you're able to advance in your meditation, for example, in Hinduism, if you are able to practice the first, second, third, or fourth dhyana, then you're able to be reborn in the form realm. That is, you won't be given birth like how we do, but you will manifest in the form. So you don't really need parents in those realms. You manifest in a way of meditation in those heavenly form realms. Of course, with the form realms, there are also formless realms. These realms, you don't necessarily have a form. You exist in the mental state. So for those realms, it's the dhyana of limitless space, dhyana of limitless consciousness, dhyana of nothingness, and finally the dhyana of neither thought nor non-thought. So these kinds of dhyana states, it's not only practiced by the Buddhists. Buddhists practice them, but it's not their goal, their only goal in practicing meditation. But Hinduism, they practice it as well. And so these heavens, these celestial realms, they are for anyone, they're able to practice a state of meditation. So it's not necessary Buddhists, or they not necessarily need to learn or being in contact or be able to understand any teachings of the Buddha. They might be from other religions that also they are also practicing meditation. They can still achieve to this heavens. But the same thing goes that these heavens, like the human world, it is in a cycle of birth and death. If you're not able to be rid of your ignorance, you will still be in this cycle. So the beings in this realm, they have long periods, they have their lifespan is really, really long. So in terms of longevity, they're hundreds, thousand folds more than a human life. But still, when their karma comes, their merit comes to an end, or when they depleted all of their good karmas, they will still fall to a lower realm. So basically, they are in the cycle of birth and death unless they are able to be rid of their ignorance. So even if you practice the 8 dhyanas, you will still need to be able to practice the Buddhist meditation, for example, the 6 sublime methods. So these, you can definitely look deeper and read deeper into all of these different ways of methods of meditation to know more about how you can actually meditate. But when you go for a retreat, it's basically optional. And one might even say you don't even need those. You just need to follow on with the instructions of what you need to do in a retreat. Then you might be even better off without the burden of these knowledge. And so from a humanistic Buddhist perspective, the humanistic Buddhist practice of meditation, or the word meditation, may create the image of an old monk who sits with his eyes cast down in deep concentration. But this is not all there is to meditation. As mentioned, Master Huineng, 6th patriarch of Chan School, the way is awakened from the mind. So how can it be from sitting? And Master Huineng also wrote a poem about the futility of relying on the body sitting to develop meditative concentration. In life, it sits without lying down. It talks about the body. It's always sitting. You only lie down when you sleep. And also in death, it lies down and does not sit. So a pile of smelly bones, why work so hard for it? So if your practice of meditation is only focused on the physical side, then there's no point to it, because meditation is about developing the mind instead of just the physical body. Meditation is not about debating the merits of sitting or lying down. Once you have developed meditative concentration, it does not matter if you're walking, standing, sitting, lying down, doing anything. Every single action can suddenly lead to enlightenment and be able to lead you to seeing the intrinsic nature. So as mentioned, if you have mastered a certain aspect of the mindfulness, then you can do it anywhere. because you can sit down and be able to meditate. You can count your breath, you can follow your breath, and it follows you everywhere. And the Chan master Songjia Xuanjue once said that walking is meditation and sitting is meditation. With speech or silence, motion or stillness, the body remains peaceful and calm. So what this means is no matter you're moving or standing still, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is that you're able to be mindful. And so when you're mindful, when your mind is peaceful, then your body will remain peaceful and calm. So for the true Chan practitioner, meditation is whatever they see in their daily life, and thus it is everywhere. And humanistic Buddhism strives to bring meditation into our own daily life. It advocates using our ordinary everyday mind, for there is no greater understanding than that. Because a lot of people might feel that Buddhism is a great mystery, but it's no mystery. It's basically who you are, how you are as a being, how you perceive things. It's basically there for you to be able to understand it. It's just need to be mindful enough and really go deeper into seeing who you really are. So it challenges us to be constant in our faith, but to use our loving, also to use our loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity to adapt to the changing world. It asks us to practice diligently, but also to practice simply, in a way in which we cherish our blessings and abide by the precepts and live contentedly. So it tells us to see the Buddha within our own mind, because that is where our Buddha nature, our intrinsic wisdom is. And to carry out all our daily tasks with confidence and perseverance, it requires that we apply ourselves in the dynamic, animated, and lively way. So humanistic Buddhism lets us see that the way is everywhere and there are infinite possibilities. Can I help you? Class? Yes, this is a class. In Chinese or English? In English. Okay, let me see. Oh, there's more. So, the master Yu Yuan once asked the Chan master Da Zhu Huai Hui Hai, how can I personally practice well? So the Chan master answering, eat when you are hungry and sleep when you are tired. But Yu Yuan did not understand the Chan master and asked, does this mean every person is practicing Buddhism every day? Chan master replied, it is not the same. When people eat, they pick whatever that is good, the fat and the lean, and are unwilling to eat their fill. When people sleep, they have all sorts of wild fantasies and scheme and thousands of ways, thus they couldn't sleep well because their minds are constantly running wild. And putting on clothes and eating can be meditation. Walking and sleeping can also be meditation. Even going to a bathroom can be meditation. The Diamond Sutra describes the Buddha's wisdom in his daily conduct, how he's dressed, how he carried his alms bowl, and how he went out with all the other monastics to gather alms. He wore clothes and ate like everyone else, but he did so with enlightenment. So Chan has always been humanistic, and all Chan masters since ancient times have developed meditative concentrations and attained enlightenment from their daily labor, the things that they do, the daily toils. It was only through the passage of time that Chan slowly lost its original character and become like a piece of dry wood. And humanistic Buddhism is a fresh reintroduction of meditation's place in daily life. So it is the hope of the Venerable Master that meditation in daily life can be the key that opens up the confused minds of human beings. And the Buddha's teachings are not disconnected from the secular world. It is not necessary to isolate oneself deep in the mountains to practice meditation. There is no gap between meditation and the rest of the world. When one is able to cool the fires of anger and hatred, then everywhere becomes like a cool mountain stream. When the mind is at peace, even a bustling crowd can be like a temple, a sanctuary. So I believe there's more. So in the Chan school, an individual practice and level of realization, although they are very important, but nothing will come of speaking just theoretically or echoing what others have said. Only by experiencing things directly can we understand the essence of Chan and preserve the true meaning of Buddhism. So you can lead a horse to water, but if he will not open his mouth, he will die of thirst. In the same way that the Buddhist Sutra are a compass that can guide us to the truth, but we must walk the path ourselves. Once we understood something, we must put it into practice. Only then will we be able to drink from the sweet water of the Dharma. So that's basically it for today. We still have some time. I can open it up, open up the floor for anyone who have any question regarding meditation or methods of meditation. But I will just quickly, okay, Irene.
Hi, Venerable. This is Irene. I just have a quick question. I think earlier you had spoken about dhyānas. I wasn't really sure in how that actually applies in the context of our practice and then journeys towards, perfection or Buddhahood. If you could help me understand, and if that means we would have to escalate in levels in the dhyānas in order to kind of progress, something that I wasn't really sure of.
So the dhyanas are talked in the Theravada suttas. So they practice extensively in Theravada. But for Mahayana, if we look at Tian Tai school in the 6 sublime methods, those dhyanas are mainly serve as a way to calm your own mind. And so within the 6 sublime methods, the first 3 actually serve that purpose. And so in a lot of Mahayana practice, we don't talk a lot about the dhyanas because we have other ways to achieve towards the same goal, that is the 6 sublime methods. So I would say in Mahayana, we sort of substitute it with other methods such as the 6 sublimes, and thus it's not always being discussed in the Mahayana context. Hopefully that explains your question.
Yes,
And
thank you.
okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Jessica.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I had a question when you were discussing the 5 contemplations. So if happiness, like true happiness, comes from within, how do you offer somebody else happiness?
Yeah, in the contemplation of compassion, it's not not very much about gaining happiness yourself. The contemplation of compassion is actually used as a way to counter one's own anger or hatred. You're if you're constantly feeling agitated or really angry about the state of the world or anything, the contemplation of compassion will be useful for you in that it counteracts that aspect of your emotion or your of your mind. And so by practicing the contemplation of compassion, the goal is to become a much more compassionate person, and also a less aggressive or angry person in the process as well. So in that way, it will also bring happiness, joy to you. But the goal of contemplation of compassion, the goal is to make you a much more compassionate person. So hopefully that answers your question. And also to your question, will the temple be open on Thanksgiving this Thursday? It's definitely open. We are open 9 to 5 every day. And on Thursday we don't have any particular celebration. Instead, in this coming Saturday and Sunday on the 25th and 26th, we won't be having a class. But if you are here in Los Angeles, you can come to Shilai Temple, because on the 25th, it's our 35th anniversary for Shilai Temple. We are having a celebration in our temple. So there's food fair, performance, and also Dharma talks. So everyone is welcome to join in the festivities. Oh, there's one more question from Mike. How does one avoid self-criticism when it comes to Dharma practices? Not meditating good enough or frequent enough, giving rise to anger. Oh my goodness. I have already. Just a minute. Okay. I don't know if it's okay to answer that question. Oh. Yep. To answer that question on our Google Classroom, because I think it's definitely important that you're able to self-criticize, to being diligent. Basically, it's being diligent is that you will constantly push yourself. But if you push yourself too much until the state of you're not advancing, you're just not giving yourself space to be flexible or to expand. And basically that will be detrimental to your practice. I don't know if that make sense, but I'll definitely go through that question in our Google Classroom to sort of give a better explanation of it. But so there's someone giving me a call, because at 2 I will need to be at another place. So we will definitely need to call this a day. But any question besides the one that's been posted by Mike, any question at all, you can just put it in the Google Classroom and I'll answer you on that on the platform. Okay, so thank you everyone. Next week, there won't be a class. It's the 35th anniversary of Shilai Temple. If you're near Shilai Temple, you're most welcome to join in with the festivities. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next class. Okay. Bye.